What a divorce attorney says you need to know before you get married. Hey everybody, Kevin Anthony here. I am a certified sexologist, Tantra Counselor, NLP Practitioner, and sex, love, and relationship coach. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you some things that the author of this book says you should know before you get married. But before I do that, please make sure that you like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Doing so greatly helps the channel and helps me get this information out to more people. Okay, so I obviously am not a divorce attorney, but if you listen to the Love Lab podcast, which is also on this channel, I did recently interview a divorce attorney. It's a fantastic episode, so if you want a lot more in-depth information than I'm going to share in this video, go check that video out. But she is the author of this book here, which is Live, Laugh, Find True Love, a step-by-step guide to finding a meaningful relationship. Also, another subtitle up there, Dating Advice from a Divorce Attorney. So after years and years of working as a divorce attorney, she identified patterns in relationships that led to divorce. I'm going to share just a couple of those things with you here today in this video. And then I suggest that you go listen to that episode of the Love Lab podcast for more and consider reading the book. Obviously, you can include a lot more information in an entire book than you can just in a video here. So the first piece of advice is most people should never have gotten married to begin with. Now, that's kind of a strong statement to make, but what she's saying here is that most people didn't do a good enough job on the job interview. So they didn't learn enough about their partner to see that there were problems that existed from day one. And had they been aware of those, they could have potentially avoided getting into a long-term relationship and potentially getting married. So the piece of advice really from there is do a really good job interviewing the person that you are dating. Find out if the really important things are there, which we'll get to in just a moment. The second piece of advice is that until you get married, the entire dating process is a job interview. And the thing is, most people only look at the very beginning, the first few months of a relationship as the job interview. And after a few months, they've made their decision and that's that. But that's not really true until you have 100% committed to each other. Now, I know people are going to say, well, you don't have to be married to be 100% committed. That is absolutely true. However, marriage is often seen as sort of the ultimate commitment in a sense because there is a legal contract that goes along with the actual commitment that you've made to each other. So before you enter into that legal contract, you really want to make sure that you're making the right decision, and hence everything leading up to that point should be giving you clues as to whether or not this is somebody that you would be willing to enter into a contract with. And I don't think enough people really see it that way. And that's one of the really interesting pieces of advice that comes from this book, which is to really see it that way. So remember, everything that happens until you have decided that this is the person for you for the rest of your life is part of the job interview. All right, next is what is described here as the F words. What are the F words? They're fundamental values, fear, foundation, fixing, fairy tale, and family. This is what the bulk of the book is on. I obviously can't go in depth into every one of those, but to just give you a few ideas. Fundamental values. Do you share the same fundamental values? This is really important. I did a whole nother video about questions you should ask people. And in that one, asking them what their fundamental values are was one of the big questions you should ask. So fundamental values are usually values that are core to who you are and how you see the world. And so if they're not in alignment, this can create problems, especially later on down the road when all the feel-good chemicals in that honeymoon period wears off. So it's really important that you figure out if you share those fundamental values. Second F word is fear. According to Sarah, who wrote the book here, fear is one of the biggest reasons why people get divorced. That can look like a lot of different things. It could be, fear of them leaving you, or, there's lots of them. Go read there's an entire chapter, go read it. But just know that fear is a big component to why people end up getting divorced. The next one is foundation. Now, fundamental values may sound like that is foundation, but foundation is a little bit different. So fundamental values obviously are the things that you value that are core to who you are, but foundation is, do you have safety? Do you have trust? Do you have good communication in your relationship? So you really got to make sure that you have a solid foundation, and relationships that don't start with a solid foundation usually are the ones that end up in divorce. The next F word is fixing. And by fixing, how many of you have said in a relationship, well, he's got this thing or she does this thing, but I can fix him, or, oh, she'll change. No, you can't, and no, they won't. You can't fix anybody. People change when they want to change, and only when they want to change. So if you're entering into a relationship thinking that, well, I'm not happy with this particular part, but I can fix them or they'll change, you are making a big mistake. Next F word is fairy tale. A lot of people create this fairy tale idea about their wedding in particular, or even what the relationship will be like. And then when the wedding and or the relationship don't meet the fairy tale expectation, people become disillusioned. And then they can often end up in divorce. So don't create a fairy tale idea. Be realistic about it. And the last F word is family. Never underestimate the effect that families can have on relationships. There's a lot of good examples here in the book of relationships that started off perfectly fine, but with influences from families ended up in divorce. And it can just simply be things like, a family doesn't, your partner's family doesn't respect you and, treats you in negative ways on a regular basis. That eventually can really erode, a relationship. It could be that, somebody really wants to move back towards their family because they're close to their family and that's where they want to be, but you don't really want to live in that place, or you don't necessarily care to be that close to their family. So that F word is basically how family can influence a relationship. Now, of course, families can influence relationships in positive ways, but they can also influence them in negative ways. And the last one I want to talk about in this video is, as Sarah calls it, children are truth serum. So I had to put this on the list, even though there are other things covered in this book that are not on the list, because too many times I have seen people who are struggling in relationship decide, well, why don't we just have a child? That'll bring us closer together. That'll fix the relationship. That'll make everything all better. Absolutely not. While children can be a wonderful addition to you as a couple and really make your life better, they will also highlight all of the things that aren't working in your relationship. If you have communication challenges and you have to deal with complicated issues regarding your children, that's going to show up. Right? And there's lots of other areas too. And that's why she says children are like truth serum, because if there are any cracks in the bond, if there are any ways in which you don't work well together in your relationship, the children will just simply accelerate that, exacerbate it. They'll bring it to the surface. They'll make it real obvious that those problems are there. So don't think that having children is going to fix your relationship. In fact, if your relationship isn't really, really solid, you should hold off on having children until you can bring your relationship into a place where it is really, really solid. Not only for your own benefit, but for the children's benefit as well. All right, there you go. This was kind of like a semi-book review kind of a video, but I had Sarah on the show, and it was a great episode, and I did read the book as well, and I really liked it, and I thought there was some valuable information in there. So I wanted to share that with you in a video. If you like these kinds of things, I read a lot of books. I get books sent to me all the time on sex, love, and relationship, and I read every single one of them. So if you're interested in learning about some new books that may be helpful for you, let me know and I'll make some more of these videos. Also, if you go to kevinandceline.com/vault and sign up there, you'll get access to our vault of information. It's a free library of information, all kinds of things on sex, love, and relationship. And in there is our reading list. This book is on that reading list, along with many, many other books that are all about sex, love, relationship in every way, Tantra, all kinds of different things in there, health, a lot of good stuff in there. So go check that out as well.